Welcome back everyone to the Pommy and Oz channel. In today's video what we're doing is we're going to get the crystal ball out and we're going to have a look into the future. These videos are always fun to do because they also give us off-season content when I have completely capitulated and backed the wrong horse. So it's always good to do it. So I'm looking forward to this. But what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the three sides I think can do a Hawthorn in 2025. So let's run that intro and get straight into it. Let's talk about the team that we're akinning everyone to, the Hawthorn Football Club. And in 2024, they went from 16th on the ladder to 7th. And it was an absolute meteoric rise. It was a proper glow up for the Hawthorn Football Club. And they didn't just sit back and rest on their laurels. They went into that season as one of the youngest sides in the competition. But they also added some really good experience in that trade window. It was almost like they were doing a Black Friday deal because they brought in real established talent. Jack Gunston returned to the club, which added much needed experience in that forward half of the ground. They went and got Maribor Cho, which was a real good help for Mitch Lewis, as we know how talented that guy is. And they also went around the market looking at second chance players that had fallen out of favour at their respected clubs. Players like Jack Ginnivan, who really showcased that much needed anticipation and excitement in that forward line, but also Massimo D'Ambrosia, who was Essendon's loss and Hawthorn's game. Their draft strategy and trade strategy last year was almost like everyone else was playing chess while these guys were playing checkers. And it wasn't just as simple as adding names. Sam Mitchell's game plan was already starting to be ingrained, but they went from bottom 4 in most of the key Premiership metrics, such as stoppage scores, turnover scores, and defensive and forward half scores from turnover, to top 8 in these categories. That's a proper turnaround, particularly their scores from turnover. Again, the second youngest side in the competition last year. It's really bonkers to think how quickly, once you get the right cogs in your machine, it can turn around. So that being said, who are the three teams that I think can replicate that kind of mantra and really surprise us in 2025? And we're going to start with the side that I talked about last year at length, and that is Adelaide Crows. And they might be the 8th oldest side in this competition. So you might say, Pommy, it's a bit of a cop-out, but they have got a mass of youth with great potential. And I think in 2024, it was a tough year for them. They really did look poor at times, particularly when you look at their defensive half scores were really good, really in the good AFL average, but their turnover scores didn't translate. And they are like the sisters of each other. Genuinely, if you score well from defensive half, your turnovers did. And their spread was really poor last year. I felt like they got too overusey. I felt like at times that they didn't want to use the ball and be aggressive. And in the trade window this year, they did look to focus on that. They brought in Isaac Cumming and James Peatling. Both hard running, both have a hard bit of edge, and both have vast amounts of experience. Isaac Cumming, his 21 touches last year, but also his hard work, his selflessness on the defensive half, but also his willingness to get over the top and get over into the forward half, I think adds a real big dimension to what the Adelaide Crows are looking to build. But also James Peatling, very underrated, I think, of how he works. Can play down half-back, can play on that wing, can also float through the midfield. A real versatile player, and it really allows them to have another decent user of the football with great understanding and great knowledge into an already talented midfield mix. My big complaint with them last year was their forward half as well. I felt at times you could just almost walk it out of the forward half of the ground. And they addressed that with Neil Bullen, who's really a professional pressure magnet. Almost 5 tackles a game last year, 18 score involvements and 15 goals. His energy, he's a real metronome of forward lines. And I think that's a huge loss for Melbourne, but a massive gain. And they haven't really really paid a lot for Neil Bullen. When I look at it on paper, their forward line now with Rochelle, Rankine and Neil Bullen, it looks about as inviting as a dentist waiting room. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes. And I think that really helps them defend transition really well. Also, don't sleep on my boy, Sid Draper. The top 5 draft pick. with his speed, his cunning, his class, his directness. I think this adds a real massive dynamic to Adelaide's midfield. At times when I looked at their midfield, particularly that on-ball side, it felt one-dimensional. It felt samey. This kid is special, and I'm really looking to see what he can cook up in the seniors, because he is a game changer and someone I'm super excited about. That's Adelaide Crows. Let me know in the comment section what you guys and girls think. Adelaide, are they going to prove us right, what we all thought about them in 2024, or are they in a bit of strife? I think they're going to be good, and they're a little smoky for me at being top 4 even, because their draw, I think, is quite favourable. Up next, North Melbourne, and this is a side that is almost the identical twin of Hawthorn going into the 2024 season in this year. They are one of the youngest sides in the comp. They are a side that is really looking at youth and a real new system, and embedding that system last year through some hard lessons. Can we see the fruits of the labour this year? And they've added some serious firepower in places that are desperate need for it. Like Hawthorn last year when they brought in Cho, they brought in Gunston, they took some speculative at some players. North have done very similar this year, and enter door right Luke Parker. If you're looking for fight, looking for grip, the former Sydney Swans captain is that goal-kicking midfielder that you're looking for. Having 78 tackles in 2024 with the 18 goals. His leadership, it will turbocharge the development of an already exciting midfield, particularly when you look at they've got LDU. He's got some backup there straight away in Luke Parker, but also Sheasel, also McElhinney. They're learning off a guy, Wardlaw, who, in my opinion, has been one of the best goal-kicking mids of the last decade. That is a really exciting factor, I think, at training at Arden Street, having that kind of influence around. Also following him across was Jack Darley, who, in my opinion, has been one of the premier second key forwards for the last 10 years. He had a solid year last year, 35 goals, the 50 marks, and a massive support, I think, for Nick Clarkey, who can really develop his game. They've got a young talent up there who are tall, and learning off Jack Darley and his ability, who has spent most of his career being the offsider, the Robin to the Batman that was Kennedy. I think this really makes it exciting. And I feel like their forward line is almost like Avengers with footy boots. Having Jack Darley there and that experience, that knowledge of how to lead and create space for your smalls, I think could be impeccably dangerous for North Melbourne. They also brought in Caleb Daniel, who, let's be honest, was absolutely used horrifically by Beveridge last year. And straight away, that gives a little bit of zip, gives a little bit of directness, particularly on transition and from your defensive half. And we saw last year Harry Sheasel push up from halfback. We saw McElhinney play that halfback role. I think this allows McElhinney now to push up the ground with his mate Sheasel, but suddenly you've got defence, you've got experience, and you've got a little bit of cunning in that half-back line, which allows you to be a little bit more dynamic ahead of the ball. We mentioned Shizo in that, and he's already a superstar in every sense of the word. 25 touches on average last year, 12 goals. He's going to take another step up this year to be one of the best players in the midfield in the AFL. I am so excited about Harry Sheasel. He's got it all. He's got class. He's got time on the ball. He's a very good user. He looks to pick his spots. He looks to break lines. And then add in their draftee, Finn O'Sullivan, who is a very similar type of player with goal kicking. Him learning off Luke Parker, and if he can get his body right, could be a really exciting midfield. One of the more exciting midfielders, I think, in the AFL when you look at it on potential. Obviously, this is the AFL league, not the Origami league, so when you look at paper, it means nothing. But potentially wise, that could be good. And then they brought in Jacob Constanti, and there's also a guy there called Braden George, my mate who was featured on this channel, who I think potentially Constanti could be one of them big pressure forwards. Definitely one of them small guys that is a real menace, but he isn't scared of kicking goals. And Braden George, I feel, could be the goal sneak North Melbourne are craving for. He really looks like the type of player, if he can get his body right, that can change a game on a whim. Loves to work up at half forward and be the conduit for midfield to forward line. And I think if he gets his body right and Constanti shows his potential, these guys could rise faster than sourdough in a warm oven. And finally, we have the jokes of the team, the Dad's Army Collingwood Football Club. Is it a cop-out, Pom, choosing Collingwood? I don't care. It's my video. And I think you look at these, they are the oldest side of the comp. So you could probably say, Pom, is this fair? I think you look at their season last year as 9th. Definitely a side that I think should feature in this video, because let's go through some of the reasons. And one of them is Darcy Moore, I felt last year, had to carry this side. With the loss of Nathan Murphy, he felt like he was bogged down in a lot of defensive duties, and it felt like he really had that one-on-one role, had to become that premier defender. And I don't think he's a defender like Jacob Wheaton in them likes. He's better playing loose, he's better being aggressive, taking the game on, and having less defensive responsibility. I'm really excited because when you look at their stats last year, defensive half was the big one that absolutely killed them. They were so strong in that in their flag winning year. Nick Dacos moving from half-back to the midfield, I think really cost them, but also not allowing Darcy Moore to be that. And they addressed that need really hard with Dan Houston, which allows Darcy Moore to not be the premier user down the back, but also give the ball to someone that can really damage you early on. Dan Houston averages 24 touches and had a lot of score involvements last year, making him one of the premier half-back flankers. He's an all-Australian. And let's not forget, we've talked about Dan Houston replacing Nick Dacos' hole. Nick Dacos had an incredible year last year. Him and his brother really are making the AFL be like the Dacos Brothers League at times. They get a lot of publicity, but the reason is they are so good, and it is a transition for Collingwood to go from a Scott Pendlebury-led midfield to this is Nick Dacos' midfield. And I do feel that addition of having him at the half-back flank in Dan Houston allows Nick Dacos to really feed and get loose and look to do some damage. He's going to be a real pain in the bum, and I expect a massive improvement from an already high-ceiling player. On next as well, they brought in Tim Membry, and I really like this. His ability to stretch defence and create holes of space for small forwards to work in is one of the best in the league, and I think this is a big loss for St Kilda, and I was a huge advocate of Collingwood signing Tim Membry. I think it also allows Brody Myercheck to do his best work, which is working in the goal square and really stretching defences that way as well, because you've got a guy who can work up at half forward. I think Bobby Hill and Jamie Elliott are rubbing their hands together because they can become that dynamic duo who can really wreak havoc in that forward half of the ground. And let's finish with a young player who's had a positional change. Reef McInnes has been transitioned into a defender, and the 194 with some real good defensive stats already can really allow Darcy Moore to roam free. I think he can really fill the hole that Nathan Murphy's left. And it's weird when we talk about these players. Nathan Murphy probably didn't get the love he did when he was at Collingwood from the outside, but I think when you look at it, how big a loss that is when he's not there, it will allow Darcy Moore to flourish. And we finalise with Ed Allen. He's a young player that I want you guys and girls to watch out for. This winger who can pinch it in the midfield and go across half forward is that modern day winger. Elite endurance, elite marking ability, works hard defence and forward half, and this allows Josh Dacos to really get involved. We saw him float last year, half forward, midfield, wing and half back. I think the more you compare Nick and Josh together, the better. And I feel like Josh Dacos is due for a huge boom this year and will really surprise a lot of people. So, let me know what you guys and girls think in the comments. Do you think North Melbourne, Collingwood, Adelaide will be the risers? Are you maybe on the Fremantle train? Drop your thoughts in the comment. Make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. We love you guys and girls being around here. We're really rising in members, and we're going to have loads of hot takes and loads of footy insight. Till next time, see you soon. Peace, love and light. Pom out.